A great family vacation doesn't last a day, a night, or even a week. It stays with you year after year. This summer, plan a trip to Great Wolf Lodge Indoor Water Park Resort, where every second is packed with adventure and every memory is one for the ages. Howl side by side down giant water slides, play indoors and out, or watch your children's face light up at the log cabin inside their hotel room. Seasons come and go, but Great Wolf memories will last a lifetime. Visit greatwolf.com for details on how to save up to 30% on your summer getaway.
There's something outside.
What is that?
This is Monster X Radio.
And welcome, everybody, to Monster X Radio. Shane Corson here, and today we got a great show for you. Can't wait to get our guest on, but Monster X Radio is brought to you by Sasquatch Coffee. Have you tried Yeti? And so today we're going to talk to Tate Hieronymus about his involvement with the BFRO and the upcoming documentary he's working on, the Bluff Creek project. Let's get Tate on the show. Hey, Tate.
Hey, what's up?
No, not much, man. How you doing?
A little tired from driving and everything.
Yeah, you've been down in the Bluff Creek area filming, and I know you were telling me before the show you were bitten up by mosquitoes.
Yeah, still itching from that. I got all over my leg and head and arms. It's not fun.
No, man, I hear you. And right now the mosquitoes are out. They're a little bit late this year, but they're out and about, and they're nasty. So, but, you know, Tate, for the Monster X audience, can you just tell them a little bit about yourself and what got you into the Bigfoot subject?
Yeah, I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa, so, you know, growing up, I was into things like, you know, conspiracy theories and the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and all these, but as growing up, I was like, man, this is so cool learning about this kind of thing, and this is a Patterson film has really got me into it. I can't tell you how many times I've watched that over the years, but I've had an aunt, I've heard of my aunt having a story one time in Missouri before. But, you know, being young, I didn't really had much of a chance to do anything about it. Then I met some friends and stuff, and their, their uncle or something? No, their grandparent, their granddad had a sighting in Minburn, Iowa. And that was a really cool account. It's actually on the BFRO website. So getting to hear these stories and stuff like that was really cool. And we moved to Mexico in 2011, so we were really close to, you know, California. We were in Ensenada. I was like, Dad, let's plan a trip to Bluff Creek. You know, that'd be really fun. And it wasn't until we moved to Ventura, about in 2013, I think it was, we planned our first trip to Bluff Creek, and that was 2015, something like that. It was a really cool experience. So that was my first, you know, exposure to like a location where there's like a lot of Bigfoot. So that was really fun. Yeah.
So you've had this like most people, you were kind of into some of the mysteries and strange stuff out there, and then you got, you know, being in Ventura area, you know, California, heading up to Bluff Creek, kind of like for a lot of people, it's the Mecca. It's the heart of Bigfoot. But you know, Tate, I wanted to ask you a quick question. I know the answer to this, but I will get emails galore and whatnot. Now, you share your last name with another gentleman, though there is no relation, but obviously Bob Hieronymus is a known, or is the guy claiming to have been the one wearing the Patty suit or costume from the film in October 20th, 1967. There is no relation, correct?
Yes, there's no relation.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that because I've been asked, when those were asking me, friends asked me, who's your next guest on the show? And I said your name. And they're like, oh, is he a relation to Bob Hieronymus? And I said, no. In fact, their last names are spelled differently. And so I just wanted to clarify that to the audience, that there is no relationship there, even though the subject matter and is, kind of related. So now that we get that out of the way. So
that's a little weird that it's, related. His last name is Hieronymus and mine, and it's like in the same subject.
Exactly. And
I can't.
When I first got in contact with you, I had to ask you that question because it was just so uncanny. You got two individuals, the last name, I'll be honest, at the time I didn't look at the spelling. I just heard Hieronymus, so I thought, had to ask you. So, and given the Patterson film subject matter, it was funny. But, that's life, and there is no relation, and they're spelled different.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried. Like, since my last name has Hieronymus, being in Bigfoot and, and a researcher, it's kind of almost makes me worry a little bit, to my credibility. That's like my one main concern for me. Yeah. I know a lot of the main people on the field, so they'll back me up on it. I'm credible.
Well, yeah. In first of all, you're right. Credibility is everything in this field. And secondly, if people don't do their homework and realize the last names are spelled different, I don't know what to tell them. They can just make people make assumptions regardless. But
exactly.
Your credibility is intact, and you're doing some really cool stuff. But let's get into what. So you go up to Bluff Creek, with your dad and whatnot. What happened after that? What got you to where you're at now?
Oh, it's just experiences I've had, and the drive, I almost have, like having encounters and stuff like that is a kind of an adrenaline rush. I ride dirt bikes and stuff, and I've been working at some off-road races in Mexico, but it's a little different than that, So it was a lot of fun. We went up there with it was my dad, a friend of mine, and another friend of mine, two other friends, and we were camping at Louse Camp in Bluff Creek area. It was the weirdest night. We got there. I'm telling the experience, by the way. So we got there. It was like 12:30 at night, driving from Ventura, so it was a long drive. We were all worn out. And when I got out of the car, coming down the road or up the direction where the road is, I heard a whoop. And then, being new to Bigfoot, that startles you, especially late at night when you have never been to a place like that before. It really gets to you. So it wasn't until like maybe 2 or something like that, 2 to 3 in the morning, that I saw a shadow come up from where the creek is, and it stood right between this tall dead tree and our tent. It was there for a few seconds, turned, and went back the same way it came from. So it was a shadow. It could have been anything. I'm not going to say for sure it was one or not. But I got audio, which sounded like someone walking outside of our tent, maybe. Possible whoop and knock and a howl. So that was kind of my first possible experience in the Bluff Creek area, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So, but it's really cool because you got this audio and stuff, and you had this possible experience in an area that is truly well known historically, and even up till now for its Bigfoot activity. I mean, Louse Creek is well known as a spot where a lot of individuals go and have been and had some supposed Bigfoot activity. And here you're out there and you get a whoop and you see this dark figure or shadow and then something possibly walk around camp. That's pretty interesting. I mean, that's a lot more activity than a lot of people get. But you made the trip up there, and had this possible experience. Was that experience your only experience possibly with the Sasquatch?
No, I've had, let me see, 2 others, and then just this July, I had possibly a third, so probably 4 times total. What was it? The second time was actually near Ojai. It was weird because there's these natural pools me and my friend and my brother wanted to go to. I don't know, it was kind of weird because where it happened was there's a place called, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Santa Aquinas College in Ojai. It's like a Christian college type of thing. But anyway, you have to hike behind the college through like these houses that are there, and they're growing like oranges or something. There's a bunch of orchards back there. So you hike all the way through that and into the canyon. But on our way out, it was getting dark. We were leaving, and it was we were walking around the same orchard area we passed earlier. And the 3 of us, me, my brother, and my friend, we saw this thing at the same time. We're like, dude, you guys see that? It was walking on the opposite direction of the road. And probably before it got within like 300 feet, or not 300 feet, 300 meters, it took off up the hill. We didn't see it. We thought it was kind of weird because, it was a college, and those college kids have curfews, I'm sure. And there was nobody else because they didn't say hi. And they, what was it? It took off up the road, up the hill to his left. Kind of weird behavior.
Yeah.
And
you had a few
sorry, go ahead.
encounters?
Yeah, that was one of them. Mm-hmm. And then the third one was actually in Gorman, off the 5 by Fraser Park, a couple, hour or so from Bakersfield. I actually found a track. I found several tracks. I found a track December 2015. And then I tweeted Matt Moneymaker about it. And was it this year? Or no, last year. He's like, hey, I want to meet you guys out there, maybe when you guys go out there again. So we met him out there and found a track. And I was like, hey, where should we go, for any Bigfoot action? He's like, go all the way to the top of the hill, and you'll get to this parking lot. And that's the beginning of a trail called Bluff Creek, if anybody's familiar with that. So we went there. Me and my friend, we were staying there for a few hours. Decided after a few hours, we decided to go do some knocks and stuff. I did a knock, but it didn't carry out as far as I was hoping. So I did whoop, then I did one more. Then I barely heard a response on my edge of hearing. I was like, I asked my friend, did you hear that? And he's like, no, because we were kind of talking too at the same time. So we walked back to this overlook where we saw earlier, and we look around and we saw eyes shining right back at us. We also have lights on, which I know is a no-no for Bigfooting, but whatever, it already happened. So we were looking around and we saw the eyes shine, and it was staring right back at us. It didn't blink or anything. It was just fixed, didn't move. So we were probably standing there for about a couple minutes, and I had my thermal video recording the whole time. So I couldn't see it because I'm not used to thermals yet. So I couldn't see it. And it was 300 meters away, 300 yards away. And it was really hard to see it, but we could still see the eye shine. So that really, got us going and freaked us out a little bit. It wasn't until I got home, I looked at the footage, and then I saw it on the footage. I was like, man, we got it. We got something. It's another blob squatch video, though, but it was really cool, to get that.
Yeah.
I feel privileged in a way.
Right. Well, I mean, the Gorman area, that Fraser Mountain, Fraser Park is another great spot location in between the Tejon Pass and San Joaquin Valley. And it's kind of deserty kind of area, but the Fraser Mountain area, that park, has had quite a few sightings over the years. I know they get a few vocals out of there, but there has been some sightings in there. I mean, for that part of California, that if there was Sasquatch there, that's that's where they're going to be, is in that sort of area, because there is a lake not too far away from there, and there are some water sources and whatnot. So it wouldn't be surprising to me that you had an encounter there. That's not it's kind of one of my old stomping grounds. Not an area that I frequented, but I have been up and around that area. So, it sounds like you had.
There's not a lot of researchers.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Right.
You know, it's like really underrated there, and people are like, oh, Bigfoot's near LA area. You know, so there's not going to be a lot of researchers over there. They're going to want to go to like Washington or Oregon or Northern California, not Fraser Park.
Exactly. You know, because they think, you know, Fraser Park is in the Los Angeles County, area. So, but I mean, there have been sightings there up to the, San Bernardino Mountains. There's a corridor there that, you know, if there's Sasquatch, I mean, down there, that's where they're traveling, and that's going to be either a stopping point or a hunkering down spot for a bit. I mean, if they are, in fact, down in that area. And it wouldn't surprise me over the years when I was in San Diego, when I lived down there, I did take in reports from these areas. There are some bear in these areas, so that few were misidentifications for sure. And then there were some of those that make you go, I don't know, such as your encounters and stuff. But to have the thermal, you know, that's exciting that you had one in hand and used it. And you know, even though you came up with a blob squatch, which is what happens most of the time, unfortunately, you came away with something.
Yeah.
So yeah. Kudos.
We know it wasn't a bear because it didn't seem like bear. What do you call it? What's the word?
Just bear
I forget
activity.
the word now. Bear behavior. There you go. Behavior.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It didn't seem like normal bear behavior for it to just be watching us. And the fact that I heard a whoop, a return whoop, shows that it wasn't a deer or a bear. Mm-hmm. And because there's only really one way in there, and they would have to walk past us. So I know we weren't being hoaxed or anything.
Well, especially up in that area. Yeah, I mean, you can't rule out anything, right? And that's honest. That's an honest reply. In the day, you did have something weird happen, and you catch him. You saw something in person and on the flare. So, yeah. So have all of you? Do you get outside the state of California much? I mean, have you done any research in any other states and have any experiences outside of California?
Not yet. I haven't done any research. It wasn't really until I moved to California that I really started doing more and getting more involved with it. But I am going to plan a trip to. There's this place in southern Mexico in the Baja Peninsula that's almost like the same terrain as like Fraser Park area up in the mountains, where all the you got water and stuff. There's Black Panther down there, which I believe there might be Bigfoot down there. I was talking to Kathy Strain about it, and she's like, "Yeah, there's probably Bigfoot down there." So I'm gonna plan a research trip down there and see what I can find. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be a fascinating documentary by itself, because there are reports over the years of Sasquatch being in Mexico and South America. It'd be really fascinating to do, even as a short documentary, just on your experiences and trip and talking to maybe some of the locals. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, living down there, I made some friends that are bilingual, so they could probably go with me and help with that part. And who knows, maybe I can get some people to help, keep in contact with if there's anybody that had any sightings.
Yeah.
It would make sense they would be, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll just say keep us posted on that. But that part of Mexico, finish what you were saying there.
Yeah, because it makes sense there would be Bigfoots. I mean, why would they not? They have them in Canada and, the North America and stuff, the U.S. Why would they not be in the Baja Peninsula? I mean, it's still connecting to the U.S. I mean, you have Bigfoot sightings from Northern California pretty much all the way down to San Diego, surprisingly. I mean, why not, Why not in Mexico? Yeah. It's warm weather, there's water, there's food.
And there's sightings in Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, pretty much all those southern states. And so, it would make sense. You have panthers crossing, or jaguars crossing the border amongst other animals, why not Sasquatch if, in fact, they are down in that area?
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense to me. So that's why I really want to go and find out.
Yeah, fascinating study, and something I would look forward to watching if you did in fact put something together on that. But let's get back to your encounters before we get into this documentary you're working on the Bluff Creek area. So you mentioned, so is that, I think you had another encounter just recently you were talking about?
Yeah, it was me, Robert Leiterman, Rowdy Kelly. For those who are listening who don't know, they're with the Bluff Creek Project, and Rowdy Kelly's worked on the Finding Bigfoot TV show a few times. And it was us three and another guy named Glenn. So we went up to Onion Lake around, I want to say maybe 12 o'clock at night. We were there for a few hours. So me and Robert Leiterman, we went down to the lake area where the campsite. Have you been up there to Onion Lake?
I have not. I know a lot of people that have and still do. It's a fantastic area and a lot of Bigfoot activity, or supposed Bigfoot activity out of there. Ton of good stuff.
Yeah, we went up there and we went down. We were hoping, we were kind of going to go there thinking there might be someone there, so we went to check, me and Robert, and there wasn't. So we radioed over to Rowdy and Glenn, saying it was all clear. So we hunkered down and stayed there. We did. Robert and I did one knock. We didn't hear anything. We were probably there for 25 minutes, didn't hear anything. Then Rowdy and Glenn eventually came over to where we were at because they weren't getting anything either. And I did another couple of knocks. I did two more knocks. And we were listening, and about 2 minutes later, we heard to me, it sounded like a loud knock across the pond up into the forest, which could have been anything, Could have been a pine cone falling on a log or a rock or something, and just made a sound, but it didn't. It sounded too coincidental for me, in my opinion. Then after that, it was about another 10, 15 minutes later, I did a couple more knocks. Then waited a bit to hear. Then we heard a branch break up in the meadow just behind the tree line a little bit, which we all heard, and Rowdy's dog Chloe heard it too. So that was the experience that we had. It was really dead that night too. No frogs, no crickets. Heard like a squirrel, or heard one squirrel. That was about it. But it was very interesting to say the least.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like one of those. Sounds like one of those. You kind of had to be there scenarios where, and I'll be honest, you were out with some great guys. I mean, Rowdy Kelly and Robert Leiterman. They're fantastic researchers and individuals. Like I said, members of the Bluff Creek Project, along with Jamie Wayne and Stephen Streifert, and others, all great people, skeptical in nature, and wonderful researchers, that I have followed over the years, especially with this Bluff Creek Project. And Tate, if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about how you kind of got involved, or in getting to know some of these individuals and getting to go out with them? Was it strictly because you were putting together this documentary, or did that happen after the fact?
It kind of happened after the fact. Like, it wasn't like when my first trip. It was all meeting all these people happened pretty much by chance, So it wasn't the first trip. I didn't meet Steven till what was it, the second time I went up there in October? I've been there numerous of times, but I've been doing these little these little short films. I was, just for fun. And then, every time I went back up there, I'd meet new people. So I think it was the second time I met Stephen Streifert, and then I kept in contact with him. So that's how I met Stephen, just going up there because he's got the Bigfoot books up in Willow Creek. So that's how I met him. And so I kept in contact with him and stuff like that. Then it wasn't until October in 2015, my another friend of mine and I went up there, and we actually ran into Bobo and Cliff Barrickman, from the Finding Bigfoot TV show, and Tommy Amarone was there, and Terry Smith was there. So that's how I met those guys. So I've been in contact with them ever since. And then I haven't met Jamie Wayne. I met Jamie Wayne recently at the Finding Bigfoot TV show they were filming a few months ago.
Yeah.
That's where I finally met him, because I was getting in contact with him about the whole Bluff Creek thing. And, yeah, they all asked me about my last name, too, so that was funny. But that's how I met those guys. And then I met Robert Letterman at that TV show when they were filming up there. Who else did I meet? Kip. You know Kip?
Kip Morrill, yeah. Good guy.
Yeah, I don't want to say his last name. I'll mess it up. That's where I met Roddy Kelly, too. So that's where I met those guys. So it was all by chance and, that kind of funny thing. You never know.
Yeah. Well, you got to be there. You got to put yourself in those situations to meet certain individuals, just like you got to put yourself in certain situations to possibly have a Sasquatch encounter or Bigfoot encounter. So, but it takes time and effort, and you're doing that. How many times have you been out in the field with any of those individuals or up in that area in general?
I've been to the Bluff Creek area about maybe 6 times now, 7. I've lost track.
Yeah.
As far as being in the field, that was actually my first time being in the field with any of the known people in the Bigfoot community, Robert Letterman and Roddy Kelly. That was my first time out with anybody like that. So I learned a lot that night. It was really cool to learn. So that'll definitely help me in, when I go out to my research area in Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it'll help
describe
greatly.
Yeah, describe before we get a little bit more into the concept and the idea behind this documentary you're working on. Can you describe the Bluff Creek area from your perspective a little bit about the film site and just the area itself?
Oh, yeah, the Bluff Creek area, seeing photos of it back then during the 64 flood or after the 64 flood, it was all cleared out. But now you go down there and it's overgrown, really. There's just a lot of trees everywhere, and the creek's a lot more narrow now. But it's still really beautiful, and it's really far back out into the wilderness. I don't know, hour or something like that, or to get back in there at least, or an hour, 30 minutes, or something like that, driving. But it's really nice, and I've been to the PG site several times, and it's changed a little bit over the years. You'd be surprised, after going there and then going back there next year. The foliage grows really fast over there. It doesn't, there's no don't have a set rule for where it can grow. But just recently. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it definitely has changed over the years. I mean, almost unrecognizable. And that kind of brings, to mind, and as recognizing quite a feat in refining this area. I mean, it was, the PG area was kind of lost, and the Bluff Creek Project really, with a group of individuals went out there and I mean, I'm sure they've located. That's definitely the spot, and kudos to them because, it was no easy feat in locating that location.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool when you go there too, because when you get to if you haven't been to the PG site, when you see the 67 film, it ain't gonna look anything like that anymore, because it's all washed out. But where Patty, it's cool because when you go there, if you know what to look for, you can find the big tree, which I've seen several times, and all the stumps that are the markers in the film. You'll see that, and one thing they're trying to figure out. But you can see roughly where she walked. So that was really cool to get to see all that. And it was kind of surreal for me. I don't know how to describe it. It's like someone who's a really big fan of football going to see the Hall of Fame or something. It's like that.
That's a good analogy. Well, let me ask you this, Tate. Since now, I don't know what your opinion before you went out to that location as far as the Patterson-Gimlin film. I don't want to get into this too much, but I'm curious. What's your believability, or how much stock do you put into the Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967? Are do you think that's a real Sasquatch in that film, or do you think otherwise?
Yeah, I it looks very real to me, and everything I've researched on it, plus the fact of it being real.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Okay. It's
pretty funny there.
Yeah, Tate, I'm sorry, I'm losing you a little bit. Our reception's getting a little bit shoddy. But yeah, I'm with you there. I believe that is a real female Sasquatch. I've said that time and time again. Too many things point to it being a real Sasquatch. And going to the area, I've personally never been, but I have seen the before and after pictures. I've followed it closely. The area is pretty phenomenal, and I could imagine, like you said, to be like the analogy with the being a football fan and going to the Hall of Fame. That's a good analogy, and I would feel the same for many reasons. Fortunately, I got the next closest thing to going to the location. I'm friends with Bob Gimlin, one of the guys there, and he's a fantastic individual and honest guy in my book. And so, yeah, that's my moment of looking up to something bigger than myself for sure. Are you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Much better. So Tate, you've been to the area. Now, let's get into this documentary you're working on, and you did say that to me, before the show we were chatting that this is it is a work in progress, and then given your time in the field and ideas and people you work with, that the documentary is kind of changing direction. It's kind of developing into different things, which is neat. It's exciting. But what gave you the idea to do a documentary on this area, the Bluff Creek project, and what should we expect out of this?
The idea came from like you see all these in the Bigfoot community, you see like TV shows that showcase the Patterson-Gimlin site and stuff like that, but no one ever gets their props about the site. Whoever the people that found it, which is the Bluff Creek project. So just going there and seeing it, doing these little short films, and after meeting these people, it kind of gave me the idea to want to do it. So it kind of just showcases, the guys who found it. It's more about getting to know the people than it is about the project. And like I said, yeah, it's changing course, and it's almost like a documentary on the film site itself too, which is kind of nice because I don't think there's ever been like a short film or kind of a short documentary on the site itself. So there'll be we'll show a lot of old photos of stories and stuff like that. And actually, there was a guy this Bluff Creek trip, Mike, I can't remember his last name, but he was telling us he had a story that Renee DeHinden took him down to the site personally. So we'll have some stories from him and stuff like that, and it would be really. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. I don't want to give a lot of things away, but we were down there and got a lot of great footage though. So it'll be. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's still not done. There's still a lot to film, and you can't do all that in a couple days,
Right. If you're going to do a documentary, man, take your time, do it right, because I see a lot of people, they kind of rush through it, and it's just, that the heart and and what they want to get across was there, but it just wasn't quality. Taking your time and and which I think you're doing. You're going to be filming until next July, if not longer. So that's, you're doing your due diligence there and whatnot. But Tate, you kind of answered my question already, but what kind of separates this documentary from other Bigfoot films, and specifically, those that have dealt with the PG film? You're right. There hasn't been a whole lot of films on the site itself. I know there's been some stuff with Bill Munn's where they've done some measurements and stuff like that in some films. But what kind of separates this documentary that you're working on? And you probably can't even fully answer this question because you're still working on it. But what is your idea on how this documentary kind of separates itself from some of the other Bigfoot films and documentaries?
Most of the documentaries I've been watching, because I like watching those kind of things, it's more about the subject of Bigfoot than anything. They're trying to find Bigfoot, and it's all the Bigfoot research, that aspect. But that's kind of what I'm doing differently. I'm not trying to do a Bigfoot, go out and look for Bigfoot documentary, let's go film this and hopefully get some action. No, it's just more about the site and the historic of it, about Willow Creek and filming around there too, and kind of what led up to that incident in 1967 and stuff like that. And that's kind of the idea, and I think that's what sets us apart a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly something I'd like to watch. I mean, if you could do the build up to the sighting, and then talk about that, but then also get into the people. I think it's an important element, especially nowadays when you're talking about like a group like such as the Bluff Creek Project, who are doing really fantastic stuff down there with their their trail cameras and their traps. They've gotten some amazing video and pictures of some of the known wildlife down there, like, your bear, your cougar, your raccoon deer and whatnot. But they also have gotten something pretty extraordinary that I've talked about on the show with Stephen Stryford before and a few of the others. They got the very endangered humble marten on video. That's really exciting because, these things, as far as I knew, were, I think, believed to be almost extinct in the area, and no one had seen one in a while, and they got one on camera.
Yeah, that's really extraordinary. I wonder if that'll mess up with the logging back in there, because I know there's a lot of logging that goes on, closer to the Highway 96 before you go out further into Bluff Creek. There's a lot of logging back in there, so who knows what will happen with that, Especially if it's an endangered species. Right,
that's a fascinating point and a fascinating question. I personally had not considered that. I wonder, Stephen and Jamie might be better equipped to answer that question. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it would matter. I can only imagine if Sasquatch was proven to exist, what that could possibly do to some of these logging areas and logging companies, let alone, like a marten. So, and, who knows what else they could capture on these cameras. That's the one thing I love about trail cameras. A lot of people are anti-trail camera and it scares Sasquatch, but I don't think it really scares the way. I think they avoid them sometimes, and it's just like trying to capture a needle in a haystack when it comes to a moving needle in a haystack, as Gunnar Monson of the show always says. Yeah, so it's but trail cameras, man, and what they're doing with them, the way where they're placing them, and the area they're placing them. I mean, look, they got a marten. That's pretty extraordinary and pretty exciting, and I know that's something science can look at and go, okay, that's a worthy cause.
Exactly, and with the trail cameras, when you go down there and you see all the trail cameras, it's almost redundant how many trail cameras are all in one spot, but it's also really nice because it's covering a lot of vantage points, and it's almost going to make it impossible for anything not to get a photo taken of, So they got every angle cover you can imagine, so that's actually a really good thing.
Right, they're not just dropping these cameras
willy-nilly, And they have cameras right by the MK Davis site too, which is really cool. And then obviously right at the Patterson Gimlin site, they have trail cameras everywhere over there. And then not Onion Lake, I think it's at Fish Lake, they have cameras over there and stuff like that. They got all over the place. it's really nice. So, and I think they were going to put one in Lard Meadow too.
Yeah,
they've well-known area.
They've got their cameras placed in quite a few different places, but like you were just talking about, it's how they place them that I think's a good thing. It's they're not just placing them randomly; they're thought out. I know that they did lose a few cameras because, and I'm guilty of this too, where you place them and then the snow level rises and your camera gets buried, and then the water damage just destroys them, and that's just part of the game there of placing them. You just can't account always for the weather.
No, yeah, the weather's not. You can't control the weather because it's not cooperative. You can't, that's where you got to make up for it, where you place the camera.
It's a gamble sometimes. Recently, I work with a group called the Olymp Project, and we lost a camera to a bear, and a couple of found a couple of cubs found it and tore the snot out of it, and so it's just one of those things. It's a gamble, but it's a worthy gamble, especially when you can get something like any wildlife on there in general, but something special like a marten. So that's pretty unique, and given the area, I hope one day that the Bluff Creek Project, those very skeptical in nature as they should be, and I know some of those guys have had their own experiences, encounters, but hopefully down the road they could maybe actually pull something out of the area that's at least questionable, a possible Sasquatch. That would be truly exciting, and I think the more time they spend in this area in studying it and placing cameras, the better chance they have. And just the fact that they're actually studying, the site, and they've located the site itself, and to have you now on board kind of filming this stuff and taking the time to get out there and getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, that's pretty dang special all by itself.
Yeah, I don't know why I do it to myself, but someone's got to do it.
Right. It'll be worth it in the end, especially when you're not done being eaten by mosquitoes. So you got a lot more days of getting your blood sucked.
Yeah, those mosquitoes were really bad this trip. I don't know what. It was really hot. I've been there in the summer before, but this summer was just a lot hotter than the last times. And the mosquitoes were just really bad. So it must be the weather or something, driving me nuts.
Yeah, I know up here in Pacific Northwest specifically, like Washington, Oregon, the extreme weather we had this year with the winter and the extended winter we had and the amount of snow, it delayed everything. The berry growth up here, the berries are just starting to come out now up here, and the mosquitoes are hatching a little bit later, I think, and I think that's just a combination of just a really bad winter. I know Northern California kind of had it bad too, so maybe that plays a part in it. I don't know, but they're out and they're pretty nasty. Yeah,
they're not fun. They're like the spawn of Satan over there. They're the devil.
Yeah, they make for a nasty time, and that's why I give kudos to those that actually take the time to get out there and get eaten alive, trying to either do research or do a little bit of both, such as yourself. Now, what do you got planned on down the road with it? I know you're a BFRO member. You're partaking in some stuff down the road?
Yeah, I recently just became a BFRO member a few months ago, actually, and so I'm doing research, and like we were talking about, sightings and looking at the reports. There's just it's actually an alarming amount of reports that come out of San Bernardino and Los Angeles County area, and even San Diego and stuff, and it's really mind-boggling. People are there's not going to be any Bigfoots, but you look at the reports, well, what's there, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really busy. I try to keep busy in everything I do. I'm busy in this. So I'm doing BFRO reports, and I'm actually doing reports for Cliff Berkman. So I look up the reports over there and, do that kind of thing for him. Because those guys, Matt Moneymaker, it's good that he has a bunch of people doing it because he's going to get bombarded by just fans who want to get attention, And same thing with Cliff. It's good that he has people doing it like me and others because, he can't go out and talk to everybody because everybody will just make it up. Just talk to them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of what
exactly.
you were telling me one time. So it's nice to be able to get my feet wet in the field and stuff. And like I said, I'm new to it. So, being new to something like that in the dark is uncomfortable, but it's something you got to get used to if you're going to do this. So.
Darn right. You're darn right. Yeah, because you're gonna have to be if you're gonna be a decent researcher and adamant about doing things right. You got to be ready for the daylight hours as well as the nighttime hours, and at all times of year and all types of weather. But the funny thing about Southern California, as we're talking about, as you were just mentioning, a lot of people can't fathom. I mean, those familiar with the area, or at least they think they're familiar with the area of Southern California. There are forests down there. There are, the Cleveland National Forest. You got, Los Angeles Forest. I mean, there's a different forest. There's actually more water than people think to be found in some of these areas, and there's an absolute ton of sightings both in the desert, in the mountains areas. You have the Alpine area down in San Diego, which I think you have the Zoobies, as reported back years ago. And the different, Stickman and the Yucca Man in some of these areas, more deserty areas like Joshua Tree National Park. And you do have sightings around Palomar Mountain down in Southern California, all the way up San Bernardino. And then you get up into the Sierras, Yosemite, and of course there's a lot of sightings up that way. But, Cliff Barrickman recently shared a report with me because he knows I'm from that area, and he's passed it on to some other researchers down in that area. But there was a report down there. I don't want to give up the location exactly because it's still being investigated, but it was pretty. I'll share this here real quick. It was near a wildlife where somebody was driving, and they, that worked at this park was driving home or whatever, and thought they saw a big gorilla cross the road on all fours. So they immediately turned around and went back to the park. And reported it. Well, they did a head count on all their primates, and there was none reported missing. And I believe it was the following day, and I could be wrong on this, but it was like the following day or a couple of days later, there was some of the security guys, walking around the fence line, checking the fence and stuff, and they had some rocks tossed at them, and they heard some vocals, freaked them out. And so, was it a Sasquatch? I don't know, but this guy driving knew what he was looking at without knowing exactly what he was looking at, enough for him to turn around and make sure they did a head count and report it. So that's Southern California. I know the exact area because I lived 15, 20 miles away from this area where there's been other reports. This area's got deer, it's got cougar, it's very mountainous and rocky, it's got a lot of water sources and cover. And if there was a Sasquatch in this area, this is where they would be. So, a lot to say about Southern California.
Exactly. Like Cliff was saying, too, one time, they don't need they don't need that heavily forested area, It's what they need is food, water, and cover. And even like that brush in the mountains is pretty tall. You can duck behind that and not be seen.
Oh yeah.
I think of how many times you'll see a bear out there. It's really rare. They're out there in mountain lions.
But it does happen. The bear. I remember when I lived in San Diego, there was a bear sighting, and people were like, no way. And then eventually it showed up in an area, and people couldn't believe that a bear had gone from where it came from, obviously, to where it was now, because there really isn't a lot of bear activity in San Diego County itself. You get outside San Bernardino and stuff like that, yeah, sure. But in the area down there was a bear roaming around, once again, not too far away from where I used to live, and it blew people's minds that there was a bear that managed to go from this location to another location and go undetected and uncovered, and survive. So it goes to show you, goes to show you how much we think we know, and we just assume because we think we know it all, that we can say, okay, there'll be no bears here, there'll be no Sasquatch, there'll be no, but in fact there are.
What's crazy too is because Southern California, there's a lot of people, there's several million people, and there's like a lot of hiking trails in the mountains that people go to. I mean, during the day you think, oh, there's too many people here, but at night it's like a whole different ballgame. Wildlife, no one's going to be out there at night, hiking around. Unless they're hardcore about it.
Right.
But yeah, this is not going to happen. So, it's animals. It's That's when
well,
they
the
are
other,
most active, and
the other
like
thing
the
on that
family,
as well. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, and I don't know of many people that go hiking at night anywhere out there. Maybe the Cuyamaca area, which is very Southern California, East County. But the thing is, how many reports, down in these areas where, San Diego and some of these areas where people don't have any knowledge, really have no experience around bear or cougar or any other animals, even deer, and they, how many reports of, if it is a Sasquatch, go unreported because they assume it's a bear or this or that. They don't know what they're hearing or looking at per se, and they just assume it's this or that. I mean that goes for anywhere, but I could see down there it being the amount of, there's probably a lot more reports, which is true the case for most areas, but don't go reported.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder. You know, it's funny. I on Facebook I follow this group called Hiking in the Pacific Northwest. And it's funny because it's not about Bigfoot; it's just about people wanting to go hiking and stuff and sharing. And I've posted on there several times, like if anybody ever had a encounter with a Bigfoot. And actually, surprisingly, I've had a few people message me and tell me there's stories. So that was really cool, and that just shows you that there is reports that go unreported.
Oh man.
But,
yeah, there was just there is a hiking group I'm involved in online from Washington, and I was I'm in these groups for the hiking, but I'm also in there because just like the hunting forums, the fishing forums, the hiking forums, the nature forums, Bigfoot you always get a Bigfoot report in there, or people asking, do people believe in Bigfoot? There's always something Bigfoot. Some of the best encounters I've ever read have been on these non-Bigfoot forums and groups where
exactly.
Especially the hunting forum. The hunting forums, people are really sticking their neck out there when you mention Bigfoot because all of a sudden they get slammed by every joke, but those are the ones I really take to heart because they already know they're probably in for a slap around. But the Washington,
exactly.
The Washington hiking group that I'm in, just the other day, someone posted, I had this experience in such and such place, vocals and this and that, and his or her description of the vocals really didn't match anything that you could, people were, well, what could it be this, could it be that? But the way he described this vocal, it really sounded very Bigfoot-like, or what we assume or have recorded and assume Bigfoot may do. And that happens all the time. But that'll never make it to the BFRO. It won't make it anywhere but that forum. But how many people? It was funny how many people under that post shared a story or an encounter or said, I believe, I was, I'm always amazed at you post that in a group and it explodes and you're like, wow.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know where to report it either, They don't even know what the BFRO is.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, where do they report it to? Who do they report it to,
I mean, like, for me getting involved in Bigfoot, it's like, man, I don't even know anybody I could talk to about wanting to get to do more involved in it, but you just got to know the where to look, and it's sometimes hard to know where to look because you don't know who to trust.
Right. Yeah. And that's another good point, especially getting into this. You can be really jaded if you get involved with the wrong group or individuals, and it can leave a sour taste in your mouth, and then you'll close up, and that's your interest, toast, or at least your involvement in the subject, and that's a shame. Fortunately, Tate,
exactly.
You're involved with some of the best, in my opinion, and guys doing great work. We're getting close to the end of the show here, but I just wanted to say, thank goodness you're involved with a group like this, and I can't wait to see what comes of this documentary, your involvement, and your research down the road here. I think it's going to be a fantastic documentary. Keep us posted on what's going on with that, your trailer releases, and anything of that nature. You got anything else you'd like to share, Tate, before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, the documentary will be cool because Cliff Beckman, I think, is doing an interview for it, and I'm still communicating with him about it. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm trying to decide if I want to say this or not publicly, but I told you, but I don't want to blow it with anybody, so I'll just keep it quiet.
Well, now you got me in trouble. That's okay.
No, you're good. There's a cool surprise though. I think it'll be nice. Any fans of TV will like it.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that little cliffhanger for when we have you back on and your trailer's out or your documentary's out on the table. So, yeah, I know you got a ton of you're interviewing a lot of the Bluff Creek individuals themselves, as well as, like Cliff Bergman. And like I said, this is a living, breathing documentary as we speak. You're still working on it. You're still heading out to these areas. You're still filming. And I would imagine some of the scenery in the background is amazing, as well as, some of your interviews are going to be pretty dang interesting, both with the history of the area and the people involved. So really looking forward to it, Tate. Any last words? We're going to wrap this up here.
Squatch safely.
Squatch safely.
Be smart when you go out there, and don't get lost. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell somebody where you're going.
Don't believe everything
right.
you hear, but also sometimes it's not bad to believe everything you hear. I don't know. It's all to you.
Yeah, no, good, wise words. I appreciate it. But hey, Tate, really appreciate you joining us. Looking forward again to this documentary coming out. Keep us posted. We'll have you back on the show, down the road here to see exactly what's going on with the documentary, and if there's anything new to share, man. I appreciate you taking your time to join us.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation with Tate Hieronymus. No relation to Bob, the hoaxer Hieronymus. And yes, I said that because I believe he's a liar, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, I did enjoy talking to Tate Hieronymus, and I'm really looking forward to this particular documentary because I love I love the film, but I love the fact that the Bluff Creek Project and those individuals, outstanding researchers and skeptical-minded individuals who are using, that know that area really well, and they're still learning stuff, but they're still seeking stuff out. It's not, it's not, they didn't just find the area and go, okay, cool, pat on the back. No, they're building upon that, and kudos to the whole group. And I'm glad that Tate's taken the time to do a documentary on this and film these guys, and film and talk about the history and stuff. So look forward to this. We'll keep you posted on the release date and any trailers. I know he's got a small trailer out now, but I'm sure he'll be releasing another down the road. So anyways, thanks again, Monster Xers, for joining us. We'll be back again next week, same bat time, bat station. And for Gunnar Monson and Shane Corson, Squatch on.
Thank you for joining Monster X Radio.
A great family vacation doesn't last a day, a night, or even a week. It stays with you year after year. This summer, plan a trip to Great Wolf Lodge Indoor Water Park Resort, where every second is packed with adventure and every memory is one for the ages. Howl side by side down giant water slides, play indoors and out, or watch your children's face light up at the log cabin inside their hotel room. Seasons come and go, but Great Wolf memories will last a lifetime. Visit greatwolf.com for details on how to save up to 30% on your summer getaway.
At Carl's Jr., we're all about classic food and proving people wrong. Folks said we couldn't be known for the juiciest chicken sandwiches around, so we do chicken the right way. Juicy, never dry. Our charbroiled club barbecue and Hawaiian chicken sandwiches have no antibiotics ever. And charbroiling, that seals in the bold flavor. And that tastes like proving people wrong. The new juicy charbroiled chicken sandwiches, only at Carl's Jr. Get the Hawaiian before it's gone. Hawaiian chicken sandwich available for a limited time only at participating restaurants. No antibiotics ever, refers only to chicken breast fillet.